Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Oh, fuck, this franchise had something going for it, didn't it? Okay, so in October 1992, a little old arcade game came out called Mortal Kombat, and it was bloody and beautiful as fuck. You see, this game shaped the fabric of reality when it came to, like video game companies being able to push, so far what they could do and their capabilities and how fucking raw they can make a franchise be. And violent as well. Not only has this franchise been responsible for a whole line of games, a weird set of shows, a pretty decent set of movies, and also the government tried to hold it back when it came out. Mortal Kombat couldn't catch a break, did it? Parents were not happy with the blood and gore of this franchise, so Nintendo had to censor all of it and replace it with sweat. Ew, what the fuck? And the Sega was like, fuck you, Nintendo, we're gonna do blood, but you gotta put a code in. And then afterwards, Mortal Kombat 2 really just solidified itself as this grandiose, bloody bath of a fucking game. And so forth, we just have a whole franchise of a bunch of fighting games, people beating the shit out of each other, decapitating each other, slicing and dicing, incinerating, all kinds of fucked up shit you can do to a person. Yeah, it's pretty great.
When you take a look at all this, you have to wonder, is Mortal Kombat really suitable for kids?
It's training them to enjoy and like violence as a form of conflict resolution.
This is a fantasy. This is not reality. And I don't believe people could punch somebody's head off if they tried.
The thing about Mortal Kombat 2 was, it wasn't just a franchise or a game, it was a fucking lifestyle. I remember when I was a kid, I was studying the lore extensively about this series. Something about it just fascinated me. I don't know. Maybe when I was a kid, I felt like playing this game made me feel like a big boy. I felt like an adult. I felt like I was here, with all the big guys playing, Mortal Kombat and violent games instead of my puny little pussy Sonic the Hedgehog and Mario. I don't know. All I know is that I had a great fondness for this franchise, and I'm not the only one. So as a fighting game, you have your standard modes. Arcade mode, the story mode, which is called Conquest, and then you have Motor Combat, what the fuck? So arcade mode is essentially, your generic regular arcade, style of gameplay. You just fight enemies, go up to a boss, and try to get this, I guess, some kind of high score, or try to get some bragging rights. Ooh, look, I beat the final boss, cool. Yeah, pretty much that's all it is. Now, Motor Combat is a strange idea, because this was essentially the series answer to Mario Kart, but with Mortal Kombat characters. Yeah, it's pretty fucking stiff. I mean, it's not like it's amazing by any means. It's nothing special. It's just, you got these little abilities you can use. You can use Scorpion Spear to, like, attack somebody or freeze somebody or whatever. I think the biggest appeal to this is watching the various ways you can get fucking smushed, burned alive, and just crushed to death constantly. It's a very, very violent way of playing a racing game. However, it does not feel great to play. It's very stiff. It doesn't feel fluid, and the racetracks feel kind of barren. Like, there's not a lot of there's not items in this game. It's just your power. So, like, there's not a lot to, do when it comes to the racing in this game. It's okay. It's a fun little mini game you can do if you're bored of playing the arcade mode or the story, but it's wacky, but that's all it is. You can also create your own character in this game and then give them a custom moveset. Can they beat Goku?
Win. Bloody fatality.
Hey, it's me, Goku!
Then you have Conquest mode, which is pretty much the campaign of the story. Mortal Kombat Deception introduced the concept of a single-player campaign where you travel through the life of a character, of an original character that they created for the story specifically. Then you have Armageddon's Conquest mode, but it's kind of strange, so let's just get down to it. So the plot begins with the parents of Taven, the main character you play as. They talk about some future event that's going to happen called Armageddon. Warnings of foreseeable futures of complete chaos happening for all people. Fortunes telling them that they don't do anything, all of the realms will cease to exist and everybody's gonna fucking die. And only their sons can defeat this horrific monster. And the two sons are Taven and Dagon. Or Dagon? I don't remember how to fucking say it. Anyways, so you take control of Taven throughout his journey and his quest to become stronger, and then to defeat Blaze. The story pretty much takes you on like a wild, like self-actualization adventure. Throughout the story, you travel through different realms. You travel from the Botan jungle all the way up to Daddy's temple to try to find the sword, but it's not there. Oh, okay, well that's wonderful. Great. And then you get abducted by Sector, then you break out of Sector's ship, beat the fuck out of him, and then you go all the way down to the fucking Arctic mountain area, where you find Sonya Blade, beat the shit out of her, then you beat up a bunch of hooligans, and, you know, and then afterwards he says you're free to go.
Wait, stop! You are free to go.
Oh, I'm free to go? After I've already defeated your entire clan? How generous of you.
Fatality.
Then you move all the way up to the Lin Kuei Temple, where you fight Subzero.
I'm blue with a bad attitude. All my enemies end up looking like an ice cube.
Then you make your way down to the Netherrealm, a dark, hellish, evil place. You meet Shinnok, this mad, crazy god, beta male cuck. I mean, he used to be an elder god, but then he got absolutely dicked down by the other ones for being crazy and going a little too mad with power. Now, what I find interesting with Taven is that Taven only views various gods and characters as sort of like family friends. Since his father was a god, he's connected to all these other people in a more familial way, I guess would be the right way to say it. So he doesn't exactly hate Shinnok, he actually greets Shinnok with respect. And Shinnok uses this to his advantage to try to, groom into being his little minion. And you actually help Shinnok reclaim the throne in the Netherrealm, which I thought was a really interesting idea, to actually trick the player into helping the bad guys of the story. So after you kill a bunch of people in the Netherrealm, help Shinnok reclaim his throne, then you make your way down to Shao Kahn's fortress, free this character named Shujinko, who's actually the main protagonist in the previous game, Deception. It's a pretty nice little nod to the previous game. It's pretty sick. You make your way up to the fortress and fight this Colossus Shao Kahn. Then you fight Goro and a whole nother fucking entourage of enemies. After you beat everybody in Shao Kahn's fortress, you make your way all the way up to this, I guess, this strange cave area where you beat the hell out of Scorpion and he summons a whole armada of like his own little minions to fight you. And then you have to fight a bunch of random fucking like skeleton heads you have to shoot fireballs at. It's pretty wacky to say the least. Dagon reveals that he killed their parents long ago and he was reborn prematurely. And he became evil and now he's a cunt and now he wants all the weapons and he wants all the power to himself because he's a soy boy, beta male, a piece of shit asshole. I don't know. They really brush over all of this, like, weird, like, what I think could have been a very good dramatic piece of information to give to our character. It's just kind of, like, rushed in and just brushed off to the side. I don't know. It's a little underwhelming, to say the least. And the setting for the fight just felt kind of underwhelming, too. It just felt like, oh, okay, it's just another fight. I knocked them down. Oh, cool. I take my sword. Okay, I'm going to go fulfill my quest. It just feels silly. And I would say the story mode really falls off in the last quarter of it because a lot of the things that seem like it's going to be this super climactic ending, right? And also fighting the final boss Blaze felt underwhelming too. It's not like Blaze was inherently a directly evil person. You know, after you fight Dagon, Blaze shows up and says, look, let's go ahead and complete your quest. You got to fight me. You got to kill me. Let's do this. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is the villain of the story. The villain actually wants to lose. And he looks menacing enough, but he's really not that menacing. You know, characters like Shao Kahn and Goro, these guys are fucking monsters. These guys are monsters. Behemoths of fucking villainy. And then you got this guy that just says, yeah, no, come by and fight me. We'll do this shit. We got to end your quest. It's just, it feels kind of it feels kind of wrong, especially for a Mortal Kombat game where villains and evil characters are so exaggerated. This character doesn't feel like anything. Oh yeah, I also want to say something too. Before you fight Blaze, he talks of these two outcomes that are supposed to happen. One of the outcomes is that everybody could die, and the other outcome is that everybody's powers would be stripped from them, and they would all just have to stop fighting. Now, after Taven has been told this, he wonders which outcome is going to happen based off his fight. And apparently, none of the outcomes happen because a third outcome happens where nothing happens. And then essentially, the realms are not saved. Nothing gets saved. And Taven becomes a god and fucks off. Okay, so talk about a big middle finger to the player when, you know, you spend about 4 to 6 hours getting through the story, being told that you're gonna save the realms, being told you're gonna save everything you're doing has a reason, and then nothing happens. You win the fight, you beat Blaze, you beat the bad guy, then all of a sudden, the game gives you a middle finger and says, yeah, no, nobody dies. Except everybody dies in Mortal Kombat 9, but still, it's really shitty to just do that to your player. It was really grounded, like, story felt really grounded at the beginning, but then eventually it just sort of, like, just slowly declined and just dropped the fuck off at the last quarter of it. So needless to say, I would say it's very underwhelming of an ending, and I find it to be really pointless to have a character that does absolutely nothing for the overall story of Mortal Kombat. He basically defeats the big bad guy, becomes a god, and then dabs out. He just leaves, and that's it. That's the end of the fucking story.
The quest did nothing to resolve the instability of the realms. But as protector of Edenia, I vow to stave off Armageddon until a solution can be found.
Nothing else happening, no context, nothing, just left up to interpretation. I mean, I guess you can think of the intro as the outcome of it, but it's like, it's just an intro to the fucking game. It's not like an actual cutscene that's tied directly to this narrative or the story. It's just an intro to the game. So it's like, And then NetherRealm Studios made Mortal Kombat 9, and then they essentially tried to tell us what the outcome was. So Shao Kahn won anyways. So at the end of the day, all of the effort that Taven put in to try saving the realms pretty much added up to butt-fuck nothing because Shao Kahn won anyways. That seems really shitty. I mean, obviously, then obviously Raiden sends a fucking message back in time. That's a whole nother fucking can of worms I don't really want to talk about because because NetherRealm Studios' Mortal Kombat story is just ridiculous and nonsense and... But overall, though, I think the gameplay of Conquest Mode is relatively fun. And when I say fun, I mean fun for about 30 minutes, and then it's the same goddamn thing over and over again. I mean, you do get like a whole variety of abilities, such as shooting fireballs out, stopping time, slamming motherfuckers to the ground, and then, teleporting. These are all really interesting, powers that you can use in the fighting, but the fighting is pretty much just essentially knocking opponents away and using the same combos over and over again. It can be fun to knock people away out of the rings or into spikes or, doing all kinds of wacky shit and way to kill people. But at the end of the day, it's the same goddamn thing over and over and over again. It's like, it gets so fucking boring after a while. And, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Thank God the story is not very long, but it does kind of just become the same goddamn thing. I like Taven as a character. It's just a shame that they don't do anything with him aside from this game. I'm pretty sure he was just made to just be a part of this game and nothing else. Okay, so as for the gameplay itself, I do feel that it is really, 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 really blocky and chunky. So what I mean by that is, essentially, the hit detection in this game feels really inconsistent. I understand that this is an old fighting game, so, janky hitboxes are to be expected. But the thing about this game is that I've played other games like this, like Tekken and Soul Calibur. Those games feel a lot more fleshed out and more complete when it comes to the overall fighting in those games. The way I view this game is essentially a lot of flash and style rather than a really fun experience. Okay, don't get me wrong, I think the gameplay is fun, but it is really hard to really enjoy this game when every input feels like a struggle. Every hit and punch feels like a heavy brick that you're trying to actually attack somebody with. This is the first time Mortal Kombat has ever introduced the concept of air combos, and it's probably one of the only times Mortal Kombat has done consistent air mobility and combos and stuff. It is really interesting, but overall though, I feel that this game just doesn't feel right to me. Games like Mortal Kombat 9 and 10, those games feel just absolutely fluid because they're back on a two-dimensional space. I feel like NetherRealm Studios got the Mortal Kombat gameplay right when it came to it. I can understand why they went back to the roots of being a two-dimensional space rather than just doing this three-dimensional area. I think naturally it makes sense. For putting Mortal Kombat in a three-dimensional space, I think it makes sense because a lot of other fighting games were trying to experiment with that too. However, I don't think this really fits Mortal Kombat well. I think it would just be better off doing a side-by-side perspective. Also, I gotta say, if you even miss an attack or whiff with any kind of attack on somebody, you will get comboed so fucking hard, and you cannot afford to make any mistakes. If you miss input or anything like that, if you miss input or fuck up a combo or anything, you're gonna get combo broken, you're gonna get parried, you're gonna get your shit rocked. The AI knows an immense amount of combos, and it is insane. And then the combo list it gives you is pretty kind of, it's kind of bare. Like, the combos you get are pretty basic shit, but, like, none to the extent of the capabilities of what the AI are able to do. Now, obviously, if you fuck around in the training mode and, start learning different combo strings and stuff, it can be pretty fun. Now, I know you're thinking, Matt, it's just a skill issue, get good. Yeah, you're right. Also, doing breakers in this game just doesn't feel right to me. Like, every time I try to do the input, it's like a 1 1/3 chance if it actually fucking does it. And when it actually does it, cool, I can break out of it, but then immediately get comboed back into it, and I gotta end up wasting more breakers. It just feels so heavy and clunky, and it just doesn't feel fun. However, I will say that it is really fun to throw around enemies into different objects and kill them in different ways. Multiple stages also have like different ways you could do ring outs and throw enemies into the fucking lava pits, or you can throw them down the stairs or throw them down off cliffs so they can get hit by spikes or get crushed by conveyor belts and shit. There's a lot of fun opportunities to kill people in this game. However, with just that, to me, it feels like this game is all flash. Overall, though, I think the gameplay is okay. It's just very experimental, and I think that if they really stuck with this design of how you play Mortal Kombat, I think they could have mastered it, and I think they could have really fixed it up really well. This wasn't the last game that did this kind of style. Mortal Kombat vs. DC was the very last game that had Mortal Kombat in a three-dimensional space. But that game was all kinds of fucking weird and wacky and zonky, and I'm just gonna, I'll talk about that in a later day.
These games teach a child to enjoy inflicting torture. It is a sick, disgusting video game in my judgment. These games teach a child to enjoy inflicting torture.